So thanks everyone for joining on the Sunday. And today we have a session, today we have a day two session. So like in today's we will going to cover a lot of things. So I will going to discuss about the agenda in upcoming slides. Okay. So we are the Mumbai MuleSoft Meetup group, and we are collaborating with the Guwahati MuleSoft Meetup group to conduct this particular training. I will start with the safe harbor statement. Both the speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in the individual capacity. We are not representing any organization here. The presentation is strictly for learning purpose, and organizer or presenter or moderator doesn't hold any kind of responsibility whether the same solution work for your business requirement. The presentation is not meant for any promotional activity. It is strictly for the learning purpose only. We are not doing any kind of promotional activities. The recording of meetup will be uploaded to event page within 24 hours. You can submit the question at any time. Try to make session more interactive as possible. And also we're looking for the feedback. We are not getting many feedbacks, right? I suggest everyone once the session is finished, you will get the email, where you will get the feedback link. Please go and provide the feedback for the session. So this help us in improving in the future sessions. So organizer for this meetup is Jitendra. So I'm senior solution architect at APM Systems. Then we are moderator for and the speaker for this meetups is Jitendra and Abhishek Batwal. So Abhishek is a technical architect at Neura Flares. Okay. So he's also Guwahati MuleSoft Meetup leader. He's a MuleSoft ambassador also. Yeah. I will not going to cover this because I have already covered this particular slide in the yesterday training. Okay. So what we have learned on day one. So we have learned what is a point-to-point integration, what are the limitations of point-to-point integration, what is the need of integration, what is the need of REST API. We have also have an overview of MuleSoft and what are the capabilities provided by MuleSoft. We have also have an overview of Anypoint platform, right? We have like created the account on the Anypoint platform. We have a walkthrough of various components available in the Anypoint platform. Then we have also understand what is the API lifecycle, what is the complete API lifecycle. So we have seen there are 3 stages, and each stages have a multiple stages, right? Then we have also created a RAML, which is nothing REST API modeling language to create and the fetch account and the context from the Salesforce. So we have created the skeleton, or we can say as a blueprint of your API. How does your API look like? What are the requests? What is the response? What are the methods supported? What are the headers supported? Right? And later we have published this API to the Anypoint exchange. So these are the things we have done on the day one, right? Now we will going to continue from there only. So we will use the same RAML. We will going to see how we can add more and more reusability within the RAML, how we can add the security within the RAML, right? Then we will talk about the API governance. Let's see next slide. What will we learn on day two? We'll see what is RAML, reusability of RAML using traits, library, and the security schemes. We will talk about open API specification, API governance. There will be overview of Anypoint Studio, and we will start with the API implementation. So that is what we will going to do on the day two. Okay, any question before I start with the session?
No, we are good, I guess.
Okay. Okay, guys. So one more question, do you have any doubt from day one session? Please feel free to ask. Okay. So we want everyone learn MuleSoft from here. That is our whole motivation, right? So if you have any question, you can ask in the middle of the session also. Okay. So what is RAML? So RAML is nothing. It's a REST API modeling language. RAML stands for REST API modeling language. So RAML is nothing. It's a way to describe your API. So basically, it will tell what are the methods supported by your API, right? What are the different resources available in your API? What kind of request and response format? What is a content type, right? And also it say what are the different securities implemented on the top of the API. It is a simple human readable YAML file, right? It is nothing. It's a blueprint or the recipe for your API, right? So we create a RAML. So because while creating the RAML, right? So it create a document, right? which is a self-described documentation, right? So once you start writing the RAML in the parallel, it automatically generates the documentation, a API blueprint. We can call this as a API documentation automatically, and later and this document is a self-described documentation. If somebody want to consume the API, right, that person can see that documentation and can easily implement or can easily consume that API. He will get all the information. What is the request format? What is the response format? And what are the other parameters required to access that particular API, right? It helps developer to plan an API before building it, right? So that is one of the things. As I mentioned, it automatically generated a document which clearly explain what your API is doing, what is the requirement for your API, right? And yeah, we will talk about the reuse the part easily in the later session. Okay, so key points. So what is the key point? As I discussed, full form of the RAML is RESTful API modeling language. What is the main use? To design and model the RESTful API before building them. So before we are implementing the API, we are first designing the API, right? That is the first motivation. We are following a design first approach. First design your API, right? Then just take the feedback, then test the API, validate the API, then you start with the actual implementation part. So this is known as a design first approach. RAML is created by a MuleSoft. It is written in the YAML, right? It is focused on API design first approach. Plan your API before coding, right? You can use if you want to if you want to build a reusable component in the RAML, you can use a data type, you can use traits, resource types, security schemes, and there is something called fragments also. Readable, it's very simple to write, it's very easy to read, right? It is not a complex, it's a simple YAML file. Anybody can easily go and read what your ram what your RAML is doing basically. Structure, as I mentioned, we can use the fragments. If you want to reuse some components across the multiple RAML, right, you can use the fragments, right? It works best with the MuleSoft Anypoint Studio and the design center, right? Documentation, as I mentioned, it automatically generates the API documentation from the RAML and from the design. There are two versions supported, so mostly we are using 1.0 for now. 0.8 came when the initially MuleSoft was launched, but now the latest version from last 4 5 years, it's 1.0. It deeply integrated with MuleSoft tool, so it is standardization. It encourages the consistent and reusable API structure. It is mostly used within the MuleSoft ecosystem. So RAML is basically used within only the MuleSoft ecosystem. Learning curve, it is easy to learn, especially for the MuleSoft developer. Main benefits: make API design clear, consistent, and the faster. So these are the some key points for the RAML. So some of the component of the RAML: title. So title, version, and base URI. So title is providing some kind of description or some kind of name to your RAML. Version, like what version of the RAML API is. Base URI, what is the base URI, right? So base URI, FQDN, or whatever you can call. So what is the base URI? Resources. So what are the different resources available into your API? Method, what are the methods supported by those resources? Parameters, input parameter. It can be URI parameter, it can be query parameters, then we have a responses. So what API will return, right? Data types, basically we're going to talk about data type, traits, resource, and the examples. So I will hold on these particular topics, right, for upcoming slides. Now we will talk about the traits. So we are going to implement the traits in the RAML which we have created yesterday. So whenever you have a pattern of the code, right, a pattern of the code which is duplicating at a multiple place in your RAML, right, and so if you want to avoid the redundancy of that particular code, right? So for example, you have written some code for error handling into your RAML, right? So that, like, for 400 code or for 500 code, and that 400 and 500 error code is applicable for all the API endpoints, right? So that is what you are doing. You are writing that same code and again for all the resources and for all the API points. So there is a possibility you can remove that particular part and you can implement that part into your traits, right? And you can call that particular traits into your main RAML. So that is how you are doing the reusability. So basically, whenever you find some pattern of code which is same, right, and so which is same, right, so you can write that particular code into the threads and you can reuse into your main RAML. So same, for example, there can be some kind of headers, right? So authorization header, there might be some client ID and the client secrets header, basically, right? So those authorization headers, client ID, client secret header, required by all the resources and all the endpoint into your RAML, right? In such cases, you can like separate this logic into your threads and you can call the thread. So generally, if you want to call the thread, you use the keyword call is. Okay, we will see. So let's I'll go back to RAML. Any question before I just start writing the threads? Okay, it's clear. Okay. So let me go back to my RAML so you can go to API Design Center. Okay. So yesterday we have
Yeah,
developed.
Jiten, sorry to interrupt you. Can you please explain one more time threads?
Yeah, you will. When I will write the code, right, you will easily understand
Okay.
that. Okay. So
Okay.
trait is kind of fun. See what happen when you are writing some kind of code in C# or Java, right? There might be some code or some fun. There might be some code that you have to call across the multiple classes, right? So in that case, what you do? You write a function and you just say write, or you encapsulate that logic into the function, right, and then you can call that function at the multiple place. So trait is same. So trait is a function. So if you have some kind of pattern, some kind of code, or some kind of error handling, like that is applicable to all the resources basically, right? So what you do, you just move that error handling part to the threads and you can call the threads into main RAML. So I will show you that so you will understand better. So let me close this. So now I have just defined a responses for successful, right? But I need to also handle some kind of response called 401 or 400, which is known as a bad request. I will say body, right? Application. Here I'm just writing some kind of error codes, describing some kind of error codes, application/JSON, right? So, and now it's not only 400. There can be n number of codes, right? N number of error codes we need to implement. 401. Then we have something called 403, which is forbidden, right? These are some error code. So for the code which start with 4, those known as a client error codes, client HTTP status code. The code which start with 5, right, that is known as a server error codes. 404, and I will just put 500 also. And in some cases we get 502 in the case of MuleSoft bad gateway if we haven't done right configuration. And these are the server code. If there's any issue on the server side, right, it will throw 50 and 500 and 502. In case of like if client is sending some request, right, which have a invalid authentication header or invalid data, in that case it will just send 400 bad requests. In case of authorization failure, it will send 401 if you are trying to access resources which is not available. So now here I have written all this code, and if you see it here, right, for post, I will just show the documentation. Here you can see 400, 403, 40, every code has been visible, right? But now if you go and see get, right, in get you still see 200 only. Like we don't have a 400 or something, we have a 200. So for that, what I have to do? I will copy this same code. All right, I will paste it here. Right. So these are a duplication code I need to copy and paste for each and every resource or each and every endpoints, right? So what I can do instead of that, I can create a thread. So what I can do, I can create a new folder first. I generally keep all the threads here, and I will just say new file. Here you can see select API format equals to RAML 1.0. Then you can go to thread, and I can name this as an error thread. Okay, so it created thread. Don't remove this header. This is very important. This will tell like whether what type of component this is. So in this case, this is thread. I want to define a responses. So I will just say responses. So what kind of response I need to define? Right, 400. And I can just say body and just say application JSON. I can define example. Either you can create a separate file. So I can just create a separate file. So I can just say new folder. I can just say error responses. Okay, under that I can just say new file. I will just go with the other, and I can just say error response -400. I can create the error response here. I can just say error. I'm just creating the schema, how the error should look like. Error message, invalid data, or data is missing, something like that. Okay, it is just you are defining some kind of prototype here. So I can just say error code. So for bad request, we just say 400, or okay, we can keep this as an integer also, which is fine. Then I can put error date time 2025 11/02, and I can just say 13/10/11 there. Okay, so I define some kind of error response. Say in same way I will define for all codes. Okay, done some mistake, I think. I can just take this above. Okay, I will define something called like new file. I can go with other, and here I can define error response 401. Create. I can just paste it. I can invalid authorize. I can just say authorization parameters. Okay. So I can define the for other. Generally, I kept it separate. You can keep one also. So I'm just following what I do in the real-time project. Okay. So error response. I will not define everything for now. Because it's the main thing we need to understand, like what we are doing here. So I can just say resources not found. Okay. Now I will just show new file. Okay, so here you can just define error response 500. This is nothing as internal server error. Server unable to process request this time. Try later, something like that. Okay. So I just defined my some kind of error responses. Let me go back to threads. Okay, error thread. Here I'm just saying example. I can just say include error responses slash, and let me read out error let's see, there's error or something like that. Okay, here I think we need to give a slash here. Dot dot dot. So it should.
You have done it within examples. I should you need to give examples.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, example. Yeah, correct. Thanks. Examples. But still, because what is happening, we are into other folder, right? So we have to give dot dot slash. Okay. So because if you see in case of because if you see it here, right, we are calling example slash response get example, right? So this is the main file. This is a root file. So from root we can go into the folder. But here, what is happening here, like this example and this traits both at the same level basically, right? So in this case, we generally use dot dot slash, and then it automatically identify search for that and it find that. Okay, so that's how you have to do it. And let me go and copy. I can give a 401 here. 401. You can say 404. Okay, so here, like I've defined my file and I go to here. I will go to my main file. I will remove this. Okay, I don't need this.
Jackie, you
Okay, let me
mentioned.
finish. Abhishek, let me finish this. Okay, I will come on that. Like, can we complete this, Abhishek?
Yeah, please.
Because like, let me finish. So here I've created the thread. Okay, so we have an error thread here, right? So I think it's 500. So 500, so error thread is there. So now if you want to access the thread, so you just in the main file, you just put a thread and you have to give the name to the thread basically. Like I can just say error threads, okay, and you just use the keyword include and include thread slash error thread dot raml. Okay, just I use this. Now what I have to do, I want to use at a resource level. You can, if you use is here, right? So I think it should be accessible to the all the resources within the account, right? If you want to do at a method level, right? So you can just say control X and you can define at a method level. In this case, you have to go and define on the each method, but that is the right way. Just always define, because there might be you want to define a different kind of different threads for different methods basically, right? So generally we use this. Abhishek, I'm coming on that. Okay, I just finished this. Okay, I will remove this 400 and 500, don't need it. The error thread. So what I've done here, so I created the error thread, so where I just handle all the error codes, right? And I want to access this error thread, right? So I want to access this error thread into my main RAML. So this is how can you do this? So I define a thread. I just created the instance, a name of the some kind of instance. You can give any name and just saying you include this thread slash error thread. Then I want to use this thread at a method level. So if you want to use at a resource level, you can put uh, each thread on the resource level. It means it will automatically the error will be applied automatically to each and every method under this accounts, right? So I define at a at a method level, because like there might be possibility I can use the separate threads for the separate resources. There might be possibility, right? So I just define as a resource level. Now if I go and check each and every method here, so right, so you will see that the message is coming, like you can see the error message 400, 401, 404, 500, like those kind of things. Like this is the one of the method. Let's see get. In get also, you will see the method 400, 401. It is not applicable to all the method, right? So this is how you can do it. Yeah, Abhishek, you have question?
No, I just wanted to say like the file name you use 501. That's the only thing I was saying. But yeah, you corrected it.
Okay. No, I think like, yeah. So this is like, any question on this? It's everybody got it why we use the thread?
Amrita had the question, but I think now she is clear. She was asking like only header can be used in the traits.
No, you can use any piece of code, header, query parameters. Okay. So if you want to use some kind of query parameters, right? So you have something called query parameters, right? If you want to use headers, so you can use the headers also, headers like that. So let me show that. I will show one more thread. So I will create a new file and I want to use some kind of headers basically, right? So it's a RAML 1.0 and I can go with thread. So I have few headers basically, header, threads. Okay. And now for headers, we can simply say headers. I want X correlation ID for everything. And I can just define a type, string. I can define example. So I can just put some kind of GUID. Okay. So this is X correlation ID I want to use, right, across the thread. So I can go there. Now I can just say header thread. I will define a new instance, right, which include threads slash. Okay. So now I can simply copy this. I can put a comma separated here. Okay. So now if you open one of the requests, you will see the X correlation ID is coming. Got it? Is the answer your question? So you can definitely call a multiple threads also into for the same method or same resource. Any question?
No, it's clear. Thanks.
Yeah, you can use anything. You can use query parameters if you have some common URI parameters, right? You can use those basically. Anything like any piece of code, right? Which have a same pattern across the multiple resources, you can move it to trait. It's kind of function. Okay, cool. So we have done. Yeah,
Jitendra, Rahul this side.
yeah, Rahul. Hi.
Hi. So in this thread, it is like same in the Postman, whatever headers we are putting to run that API. So same that header detail we have to put in the threads, correct?
See, trait is nothing to do with Postman. Like the so
No, no, no,
basically,
no, no.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in the Postman, like we are putting authentication token,
correct.
then cookie session, and all
Yeah.
these things. That headers we are putting, correct? Same that headers we have to put in the threads, correct?
Yes, yes, yes. So basically, see
So
whatever you are defining in the your RAML specification, right? Whatever headers or no, if it's required, then you have to put it in the Postman, right? If it's required. So right now,
right.
what happens? So I by default it's not required. If you say required, true, right? In that case, this header is
Yes,
whenever you
exactly.
generate a
Okay,
request
understood.
from Postman,
Hmm.
because what happened, like before, like I will going to explain one more thing why we are writing the RAML. So in MuleSoft we have something called, I think it's a bit complex concept, so let me go through step by step. Okay, I'm going to show you why RAML is important, because whenever the request comes, right, so we can validate the whole request using RAML before it hit the implementation. Okay, so here RAML, like whatever we are defining the RAML, whenever request come, so it whatever request will be checked against your RAML. So basically, if you are saying this parameter is mandatory, if this parameter is not coming, right, so RAML itself will throw 400 error. Basically, it's saying this particular parameter or X correlation ID is missing. Or if you are defining some like in the request, right? In request, if you are saying these are the parameters mandatory, if those parameters are not coming, the request itself will fail at a RAML or gateway level before it actually go and hit the implementation, right? So you are doing a lot of validation in the RAML. That's why the RAML is very important. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. Good. So any doubt on traits? Like I just try to explain, like in very simple way. So any doubt? No doubt. Okay. And guys, I want to tell you one thing. Here I'm uploading everything. So if you go and just see module one, in module one we have a JSON example. Yesterday whatever RAML I've written, I just uploaded it here. So you just have a you can go through that. So then in module two, I will present, I will just upload everything whatever I am creating today, right? So again the updated RAML and everything will be get uploaded here. Okay. And presentation is also available. So whatever I am presenting, everything, whatever code we are generating, we will just upload it here. Okay. So now we have seen a threads. I will just skip the data type for now. We will go with the security schemes first. So now, what is the security schemes basically? In RAML, you can define a security scheme, right? So you can just describe how your API is protected, whether your API is protected with API keys, whether your API is protected with client ID and the client secret, whether your API is protected with OAuth, or whether your API is protected with basic authentication, right? So those are the things you can define in the RAML using security schemes, basically. So RAML provide a option where you can tell the client what kind of authentication mechanism implemented on your API, right? So this is how you are describing the authorization and the authentication mechanism for your API. So in RAML, there is an option or there is a component available which tells what kind of authentication mechanism is implemented on the top of your API. So it can be client ID and the client secret, it can be OAuth, it can be basic authentication, it can be API key. Okay, so any question on this? I will going to show with an example. I know, like otherwise it's difficult to difficult to understand, right? So give me 2 minutes. I will uh, go back to my RAML. Okay, so let me go back to API channel. So here I can just say new file, and I will just say I will select a security schemes. I think it should be there. So I can just say client security schemes. Okay, create. So here in the type, you can define something called X hyphen. It whenever you are defining a custom security scheme, it always start with X, right? X client security, right? So you're just defining the name described by headers. So what I'm saying, I want the client ID and the client secret in the header. So I'm just saying it described by headers basically. So I can just say client ID. You can just define a type, which is of type string. You can just say required true. All right. Example. So I can just put some kind of client ID. I will just put some example. Then we have a header client secret. Type string. Always give a space here. Required true. Example. I just put some kind of value. Now, in case if it's filled, so you can define the responses 401 body application slash JSON, and you can just say example include example slash error responses slash. The first time today I got this IntelliSense. Okay, it's 401. So you're defining your like security schemes here. Basically, you are saying it's X client security schemes, which is described by, right? You can just say header, the client ID, client secret, in case if it's failed, what error. So I use the same error 401 basically, right? So if in case of authentication and authorization fail, you always use the response code equals to 401. Right? This is how you can define your security schemes. Like in case you just have a API key as a security header, right? You can just put the API key. So you just putting here how you're like whenever you are creating the request from your client side or maybe on the postman, right? So where we have to send this particular security parameter. Here I'm saying you just send the security parameter in the header and it should name have a client ID and it should name as a client secret. As simple as that. Now you can go back to here, like I will just show my presentation again. So to use this security schema, right? So what you will do now, right? You have to call into the main APIs, right? So I can go back to my main API and here I can just say security schemes and I can just say client security and I can just say include. Okay. Under include where I've written the security. Like, let me, I have done one mistake. I generally create a folder security schemes and I will move this file into security schemes. Okay, just I want to make sure we follow the proper best architectures and everything. So okay, so now I applied. Now how I can apply the security scheme? If you see, I just put include here, right? But it is still not visible at this place. So you have two options. If you want to apply this same security schemes to all the resources, right? So you can use secured by at the top at the root level. Otherwise, you can use at a resource level. But I want to apply the security schemes to all the API. So I can just say secure by and give this name, whatever this instance name. Okay. Now if you go and see, you should have the security scheme somewhere. Yeah, security. So in the security, it is expecting some kind of yeah, client ID and the client secret. Okay, let me try out this particular request. Let's see whether if I don't pass this Xcode relation ID is there. Okay, let me remove this. I think it will work. Okay, let's see what it will work because we are just passing the header here automatically, right? Because it will not going to validate the value, what value coming in. For that we will discuss how we have to validate the values basically, right? But here it will validate if we are not sending this client ID and the client secret, it will throw 400 bad requests. It will not validate whether it's coming empty or anything. It will see whether this header is coming or not. right? That's the only required. That it will just validate the skeleton, whether whatever expected field is coming or not, right? It will just validate that. It will not going to validate the what data, what client ID secret and what client ID value we are sending. It will not going to validate that. For that, we have to apply the API policy, and that API policy will see. We'll talk on that. Just hold on that part. First, we finish this RAML, and then we will talk about this. How we can validate this client ID and client secret. So we are good here. We have defined our security schemes and everything. So now our API, it looks more robust and better, right? More secure. Any question?
No. But a
Is it
question
clear?
from me, like if we want to do it only for some specific resource or say specific method, then how we do it?
Yeah, yes, it's you can use the secure by here, right? Something at the resource level, I think,
Yeah.
right? So you can use the secure by it should be some at a resource level, basically, right? You can use that basically. Okay. Any other question?
Jitendra, so this security schemes can also be called under traits, right?
Yeah, you can use in the trade security schemes also.
Okay.
Okay, cool, great. So let me go back to my data type and all those things. Shit. Are you getting right what I'm talking? You understanding what we are doing, right?
Jitendra, if that same security we can add in threads also, then why we require securities
See,
part?
these are the some components defined Raul, right? So generally, MuleSoft suggests like use for security schemes, you use the security schemes, right? For okay, and like for the okay, I will tell you somebody asked me question about like whoever asked me that question. Raul, you are before that who asked somebody. So I will just suggest if you have a security scheme, just use the security schemes only, right? So don't use in the thread. It
Acha,
become more
basically, this is bifurcation of your components.
components basically, right? And like I will talk about one more thing. There is a coming library. In library, you can do everything.
Correct.
Like
Yes, library,
yeah,
library.
you can define all threads and everything into library also,
It
right?
is easy to find and easy to analyze.
Yeah.
If there is any issue or something, so it is
Yeah.
easy to
See,
find.
everybody have a same extension. If I take like here, if I take something called like a new file, and I can just
Correct,
say,
correct, correct, correct.
I can just say a resource type.
Hmm.
And if I take the resource type, right? So then if I change this header to security scheme, right?
Hmm.
Here in the resource type, if I just change this security schema, you can write a security schema here also. Got it, right? It has been given like you can easily understand and it just to bifurcation, right? To bifurcation your security schemas, library, your fragments, your traits, resource type. That's why you can see simple like we will talk about the library. In library you can do everything basically.
Yes.
Why this error is coming?
Double dot, I guess.
Thanks. Okay. So yeah. Okay, cool. We are on the track. Now let's go back to library. So we have a data type. So yesterday, what happened? Like first, I will set the context so you understand why we want data types, basically, right? So yesterday, what we have done. So when we design our RAML and when we create the endpoint called post, right, where we have defined the example directly, but we haven't defined like what kind of data type supported here, whether it's required or not, right? What is the examples, everything. We haven't defined each and every field. Basically, we haven't created the schema. We directly point to the examples, right? Is this correct? But in case if I want to validate
Yes.
whenever the request is coming, and I want to validate whatever fields in required fields in request are coming or not, right? I want to validate at a gateway level or at a RAML level before they actually the request hit the implementation, right? So that is where we define a data types, right? So let me go back to presentation. So it's very simple. Like you can define a type, user, type object, and whatever property ID, which is integer type, name, string, email, those kind of thing, right? And you can easily call into your main RAML using the keyword type. So whenever you define a data type, you can use the types basically, and under types you can define what is this type? Like it can be user, it can be account. What is type? It's an object. So it object, you got it right. Object means a single JSON payload. And if you right, so that, and if you want, if you thinking like there are multiple users are coming, right, then when you are calling this type into a main RAML, you can just say user and this square bracket, which means this object there can be multiple users coming into a single request. That's how you do it. I will explain it. And then we have a library. So library is again a RAML. It's a separate file where you can store reusable parts of API such as data type, traits, resource type, security schema. So that you can reuse them in the different APIs. So what is the benefit of library? So instead of creating separate file, right, for traits, creating the separate file for security schema, you can define everything into a single library file also. That is also possible. So, but I generally like avoid this. Library is always a good thing, basically, right? It's a very good thing where you can define multiple schemas. You can define multiple security schemas, multiple threads into a single file. But this file, sometimes this file can become a bit bigger, right? So generally, I generally create a separate component for each and everything. Like, but library is good thing. We will going to use the library, right? We will going to use the library now. Okay. So I will not for like like now what I will do. So I have this particular JSON example, right? Right. So I want to create, I want to create a data type for it. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I want to create a data type for it. Okay. So what I will do, I'll create a new folder called library. I can use the data type also, but I just want to show you how you can create a library. So I'm creating a folder called library. Under library, I can create a new file, which is of type RAML, and file type, I can give this as a library, and I can just say account library. It is a bigger code, so I already written the code. I will just explain you. Okay. So I will share that code with you also. Let me open. So I define the library here. So under library, I define what is the type. It is a type account. It's a type object property. If you let me open, I will just duplicate this window. I will just explain with an example so you can easily understand what I'm trying to do. Okay. So let me open one of the post, or I will open one of the examples from here. Post account. So here you can see a name where I'm saying it's type string, required true, mean length equals to 2, max length equals to 225, right? So here this is name. Here I'm saying type string, required true. It can be enum. So it can be like in drop down, right? You can say multiple values. So it's kind of enum basically. So it is in this particular field, it is expecting customer, partner, prospect, or other. If somebody is sending value other than this, right, it will not going to accept it. It will say bad request. Same goes with industry, phone, website. You can see industry, phone, website. Even you can define a regular expression. You can just have a patterns, right? So you can define some kind of patterns here, right? So regular expression patterns you can define. So for phone number, you may be expecting some kind of pattern, right? You can just define those also. You can go like you can define mean length, max length, basically. Here, if you see the annual revenue, right, it's a number, right? So here, maximum value it can accept this, minimum 0. Ownership, like rating, description, billing straight, all this defined. Like it's easy, right? What is the significance of like defining mean length, max length, whether required or true? Can anybody tell me? From security perspective, what is the significance of this?
So you can do a data validation.
Yeah, that is one of the things.
If any sort of attacks happen, like
Yes,
for that,
that is the
please.
answer. So we have a denial of service attack. So basically somebody would try to send lot of data, right? So lot of data. So with the RAML validation, we can stop at a gateway level before it actually enter the implementation. So like here we are controlling. we are saying this particular field can accept length of 200 characters. If somebody try to send 50,000 character in that, right? At a gateway level, we can stop those requests by saying 400 byte request. There's another attack called distributed denial of service. So where multiple bots are sending the request with a huge amount of data. So at RAML level, we can do such kind of validation to avoid. It will not, I'm not saying it will completely avoid it, but at least we have some kind of a shield there. So that will make sure like it validate all the data before it enters to the API implementation. Okay. So now how we want to use this? Let me open my presentation. So here we don't use the include word. Here we use something called keyword called uses basically, right? We use the keyword call. If you want to access the library, you use the keyword called uses. Okay. So let me go to RAML. I'll go to main RAML. Let me go library. So here I can just say uses. I can just give a library name as a account lib, and you can simply say library status account. Okay. Now I will keep the example as it is because example is needed. I will also define the type. So what is the type? I will copy this account library. I think it's dot account, and it is array, right? So let's see. It's array only. Okay. This error should go post account response. Let me see post account. No, I've defined at a wrong place. Sorry, it has to be in request. So I can say type in the request. Okay. Okay, why it's saying parent ID should be string. Okay. So here see it started validating your example also as soon as you put right. So you can just go to here. I can just put some kind of string. Okay, now it should. Okay, now let's see. Okay, it should be shorter than 15 character. See, it is good, right? It started validating it's shorter than 15 character only. Just give me a second. Let's correct it. Okay, it should not be shorter than 15 character. So that is what we have defined. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. See, now there is no error, right? Now, if you go to the post request and you will see changes here. Here you will see the explanation for each and every field. See, name, minimum character 2, maximum 255, type, industry. You can see the explanation for each and every field which is available in your post request RAML basically, right? So this is nothing a data type which we have defined in the library. Any question on this? Now, if you want to define for other fields, other also, you can easily do that. Yeah.
One question from Srinivas, Jackie. Do we typically use API policy to prevent denial of service or use RAML validation to prevent?
It is mix of both, right? So RAML will do validation, but if you want to authorize or authenticate the request, and also if you want, like we have something called a JSON thread validation policy, we have a IP block list, IP whitelist, right? So if you want to block the requests from some network, you can do that. If you want to validate, see, RAML will definitely do some kind of validation. It will not completely, stop those attacks. We need a mix of API policies and the RAML, which will make sure that such kind of attacks can be stopped. Is this answer your question?
So, Jackie, if we say like if we need to prevent it at field level, then RAML, and if API level, then policies.
Yeah. Yes. Let's see. Field level, yes. If somebody is sending a proper number of fields, basically, right? All the fields are properly, but they are sending like hundred of thousands of requests, millions of requests within that particular second. That RAML will not stop. We are not validating those how many requests are coming, right? So if
Right.
such kind of denial of service attack happen, we cannot control on that. For that, we need a API policy. In API policy, we have a rate limiting policies, right? We can say like we can accept like 20,000 requests per hour. Such kind of define we can do that, right? Apart from that, we have something called JSON thread protection policy, XML thread protection policies, right? We can apply those also to validate whether the JSON format is coming properly or not. That will done by RAML itself. Like it will not come to that up to that particular layer, but we can define how many object can be in the array, in the single array basically, right? Those kind of things can be defined in the in the JSON and the XML thread protection policy. And then we know like there are some networks, right, which can send such kind of attack. Which can produce such kind of attacks, right? So we can block those kind of networks basically. So for that we require the API policies.
I hope Srinivas, you got your answer.
Yeah, that answers my question. You're basically saying that anytime you want to protect the API itself, you do API policy validation, and then if you want to do an individual field level protection, then you do RAML validation.
Correct. It is like mix. Like if you have a combination of API policy and RAML, right? It will. I will not say 100%, but it will ensure that such kind of attacks can be stopped on the API at a gateway level. Okay. Cool. So now what is the next? Let's see. Go on with security schema. So now I will give an overview of Anypoint Studio. So
Jitendra,
like,
one query.
yeah.
Saurabh here. So, which takes the precedence? Is it the policy takes the
No.
precedence of validation, or the RAML takes the validation precedence?
First, at the gateway level, the RAML, the data will be validated against the RAML, right? And then it will get first it will get authenticated. First, the policy will take precedence, then it will validate against the RAML basically.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so what is Anypoint Studio? Anybody is aware, like, just try to make this session bit interactive, like, you can ask questions, everything, like, what is Anypoint? Anybody heard about the term called Anypoint Studio? What is that Anypoint Studio?
It's your IDE to develop your API implementation.
Correct. Yeah, Manasa. Yeah, you can ask the question, Manasa.
Yeah, for developing our APIs, we can do
Correct.
modifications.
So anybody use Eclipse? Eclipse is basically for writing a Java code, correct? Java classes, Java libraries, Java code, basically. So Anypoint Studio has been built on the top of your Eclipse platform or Eclipse tool. It's an Eclipse-based IDE, right, which allow you to write a MuleSoft integration, MuleSoft APIs, MuleSoft flows, right? So you can do your complete MuleSoft API development using Anypoint Studio. We have a cloud-based IDE also, that is Anypoint Code Builder. That is not part of this particular training, but I will keep one small 10-minute session where I can just go through what is ACB. So, and like we have an Anypoint Studio which we are using from many years. Like when MuleSoft started, the first ID came, that is the Anypoint Studio, where we are writing a MuleSoft integration, MuleSoft flows, APIs, right? And it is and if you see, the MuleSoft is like almost, it's a Java based itself, right? So it used the files called pom.xmls, where we can add the dependencies and all these things. We'll talk about more than that. What is that pom.xmls and all those things? We'll definitely talk on all those things. Okay. So this is how the Anypoint Studio looks like. If you want to download the Anypoint Studio, you can simply go to Google and you can simply say download Anypoint Studio. So you can simply click on this particular link and you can just say, you can fill this particular form, right? And once you fill this form, you will get the link over the email, and you can use that link to download the Anypoint Studio. I will just copy this to you. Yeah, Sampath, can you ask? So, Srinivas, can you ask this question? Like, what is your your question?
No, so in your definition, you actually define the types in the library, right? What I didn't understand is when you actually use it, you basically pass types and then you pass account as an object.
Yeah, this is the account,
Uh,
right? Because like
right.
this is the name of your types, and there can be multiple types. Now, if you have account type here, right? Then you can have a
Okay. So you
other
have
type.
contact.
You can have a contact type. You can have a something called XYZ type, right? And you want to
Right.
tell like what type I need to access from this data type or from this library. That's why I've used the instance name dot a type, so it can pick right type from this library.
You show the Salesforce system API.
Yeah. What happened? Okay. Somebody change it. Let's wait. Okay. Yeah, something as yeah. Here you can see account lib. So account lib is nothing the instance of your library here, right? For accessing
Okay. Okay.
library, you will instance of your library. And dot account, and I put this array because I'm saying here if you
Okay.
see here you to see that is the object, right? But I can have like generally when we talk with the Salesforce, we have to send the array basically, right? So that's why I just put 2 square bracket, which means this will be array.
Okay. So
Hi.
one question, Jackie, on that one. So typically when you are doing a post, you are going to be sending only one account object for creating a post, right? So why do you need to pass array? You are going to be anyway passing only one account object.
Yeah, but when see why I've kept this array, you can keep it as a single and then you can do in the code because when we talk with the Salesforce, right? So this is the Salesforce API, right? So Salesforce require like the way they define the payload, right? So like right, so the way they define the payload in the Salesforce, basically we need to pass the array. So for example, the other thing, if you want to pass a multiple accounts into your request, right, in the post request, you can do that also. So that's why I kept
Okay.
this as an array. So if you want,
Okay.
like, let for example, I built as for take an example, I built this API for doing the mass synchronization. Like there might be mass synchronization in the like large synchronization. Somebody has to update the 100 account. So they will not going to send me 100 requests. They can send the 100 account into the same request, right? All the 100 account. So that's 100 account in the same 100 object into the same request. Then I can process at a MuleSoft. So the Salesforce
Right.
connector is capable of accepting 200 object within the same array at a time. That is also possible, right? So that's why I kept this as an array. So think about the future also. When you're designing your API, you just think about the future. Can I use this API just for the one project, or do I need to use this project for the multiple capabilities, right? So always think like that. So if you want to send a single account, right, you can do that also with this array also, right? But let's consider in future if you want to sync thousands of record, millions of record. So in that case, the array is very useful, right? So like so you are defining your API, which is a future group also. Got it?
Got it. Thanks.
Can
So
we
let me.
modify an API for enhancements?
Can you repeat?
Can we modify our existing API
Yes.
for
So what
enhancement?
happens? So whenever I will talk on that. So whenever you define your API, you maybe talk about the major version and the minor version. So whenever you are changing your API, which is non-breaking change, so you update a minor version. So maybe like something called 1.0.0 is the first version. So you can do the like in future you get a change. You want to do the changes in your API specification, and you are publishing that API specification to the exchange, and you feel like this is just a minor change, so it will automatically increase by 1.0.1, which is non-breaking change. In case if it's a breaking change, right, so you can just update a middle version 1.1 okay. So see, I will tell you. So there are, this is the 1.1 is the major, the in between is minor, and some like 1.00, like in case if you are I don't know the remember that major, minor, and one more thing is there. So if you are just changing some kind of descriptions and anything, right, so you can just update this particular version to 1.0.01. If you are if you are adding some extra field which is non-breaking, which will not going to break anything existing, right, so you can update this version to 1.1.0. In case if you are for example, I added one field called test, which is required false, right? What does this mean? This is non-breaking change because it's required false basically, right? Correct? In case if you are changing some, if you are adding some field like which is required true, in that case it will become 2.0.0. So that's how you are incrementing your version, right? So whenever there is a minor changes which is are non-breaking changes, you can just update the middle version. Like in case if you have some minor changes like kind of descriptions or anything, you can just update the this one, right? Last one. And if you are having something which can break the existing API, you just upgrade it to 2.0.0. That's how it works. Okay, so that is how you just it automatically increment the version whenever you are publishing to the exchange, and you need to take the decision whether you need to update the major version or the minor version. It's completely depend on the breaking changes and the non-breaking. Yeah, it's bad, seniors. Thanks for that. I forget about that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let me quickly move. So as I mentioned, the Anypoint Studio is a software tool made by the MuleSoft. It helps developers to design, build, and run the integration, right? So it is kind of we have other IDs like Eclipse and or IntelliJ, right? So basically, but the Anypoint Studio is specifically for writing a MuleSoft application that connect the different systems together, right? Let me talk about what is the Anypoint Studio capability. API and integration development. You can build a MuleSoft application, right? Graphical design environment. So it's a no code or low code platform. You can drag and drop the connectors. You can drag and drop the various component, and you can configure that without writing any code basically. Connector support. It has almost more than 300 or maybe 400 plus connectors, and it also provide a software development kit which you can use to build the connectors. And I think right now recently they have launched something AI agent which help you to write the connectors basically. Data wave transformation. It is like generally when you implement or when you enable the communication between two systems, right? So you may have to do the data transformation because like the data coming from one system will not able to understand by the other system, right? So maybe in that case you may have to perform some kind of data transformation. For that you use the data wave. Testing and debugging tools. So MuleSoft already provides something called like M units, right? You can write the unit test cases, and it also provides debugging capabilities. Deployment options. So you can deploy the apps to the cloud hub, Anypoint runtime manager, or on-premises Mule runtime, or on any cloud also. Or you can also deploy your application on the Kubernetes based like architecture, or in the form of the container, or even on the Dockers also. API design and document. So I already talked about like you can integrate with Anypoint platform to design and document REST or SOAP APIs. Error handling and security. So we already we'll more talk about the error handling. So I think one of the best framework provided by MuleSoft is error handling. Like they have a very good error handling mechanism. Performance monitoring, we will more talk about like how we can monitor the APIs and all this thing. Version control support. So Anypoint Studio, you can just install the plugin to the Anypoint Studio to enable like git commit and git changes and everything. You can integrate with the Anypoint Exchange. So you can easily integrate your MuleSoft Anypoint Studio with the Anypoint Exchange. Like so these are some capabilities provided by the Anypoint Studio. Okay, I will. Yeah. So let me go through. What is the first thing we will do? The first thing we will connect Anypoint Studio with our Anypoint platform, right? So here, this is the ID looks like basically. So once you install this ID, right, it will be look like this basically, right? So you can simply click here. You go to settings, right? I will show you some of the thing. Under setting, you can just first thing you can do the authentication. You can just say add. Okay. So let page to be open. It will be asking me for username and password. So I will just put my username. No, I don't know. Okay. So I just added my username and the password. I'll show you more thing. Like just go to Anypoint platform. So here you can select the region. So currently Anypoint platform in multiple region, US, EU, and the government. So I'll just use the US region, right? That is one of the thing, right? And here you can just, there are some settings. You can just keep everything as a default basically. So we already get authenticated. I just connected my platform with the Anypoint platform just by adding this Anypoint platform username and the password. That's the first thing. I have changed the region. No, I don't think I've changed it. Okay, it's US only. Apply and close. I will just update. That's fine. Okay, so I have connected that. And this is, you can see the multiple option. You can create the API specification from here also. You can open templates from the Anypoint Exchange existing. You can create a Mule project from here. Okay, I will going to create a Mule project from here before let you, if you have any question. Yeah, Abhishek, like better to get 7.22, which is okay. Like you can take the latest one. Yeah, you can just download the latest one. Yeah. So Abhishek, like, would you want? I will before I just start implementation. Do you want to take that OS one first?
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
Should I go with slide? Do you have a slide for that, or should I created some slide? Which
I,
will
I
tell.
I have a slide for that.
Okay, sure. Okay, good. I will just stop sharing. You can just go through the OS. So we will see. We will start with the implementation part. Once we come, we just want to give like there's another way of writing the API specification, that is open API specification, which is the widely used, like which is the universally accepted API specification format. Yeah, Abhishek, you can go ahead. I will just stop sharing.
Yeah. So, Jackie, you want me to explain only OS now, and you will explain Studio again, or API governance as well together?
API governance, let's hold on that for that. Like we like at least we just go with OS for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will just. Okay, so what I will explain is what is OpenAPI specification, what is the structure, and then I will also show you in the design center like how the structure look like by an example. Okay, so I will go in slide mode. Okay, so what is OpenAPI specification? So previously it is known as Swagger. Okay, it is definitely same as what Jackie has defined for RAML. Like it is a blueprint where you can understand what is your structure, what is your resources, what examples or data type what you are giving. Okay, so OpenAPI specification is also one more way of defining your structure, which can be used to build your API. Okay, it is defined as standard language agnostic interface to HTTP APIs, which allow both human and computer to discover and understand the capabilities. Okay, the field name and values what we defined in OpenAPI specifications are case sensitive. Okay, and that also applies for RAML. Okay, the structure what we have is it is divided into three structure: metadata, servers, and path. In metadata, we have the OpenAPI version, like what version we are using, for example 3.0.0. Then the info part where we define like what will the title of our OpenAPI specification, what version it is, then any description if you want to give, and a contact like who is going to maintain this, like who has created and who is responsible for creating this OpenAPI specification. The server, again, this is optional. So an array that define like what is your base URL or URI, like if you want to define any URL for your production or development, like your local host or anything, if you want to define, you can define that in the server. And then comes the path, that is your resources. So like Jackie has shown account, contact, account ID, like those are your resources. So we have a keyword called path, okay, which we need to define when we defined the resources over here. Okay, so showing you an example. So this is basically how your OpenAPI specification looks like, where here you have provided the OpenAPI, like for RAML we have RAML 1.0. Here we have OpenAPI specification, say 3.0.0, the info, the server part, and the path. Okay, so taking an example from RAML. Okay. Also, you can use any, if you are good in RAML, and you can use any AI tool to generate your schema for your OpenAPI specification, and then you can modify it. So taking this example, I have a telecom API, okay, where I have a trait which is traceable with header X correlation ID, which I need to imply in all of my resources. And I have, say, some data types, okay, client ID and tariff ID, which I'm using as a query string or query parameter. Okay, I have two path. One is for customer and one is for plan. This is my post type and this is my get. Okay, and I have defined like it should be a JSON format. What should be the input? Like it is an object and it should be having name and email as an input. Okay, and then it is a get request. Okay, this is my RAML. Now I want to have an open API specification which depicts the same thing for me as what I've created in this RAML. So in order to have that, the structure will look like something this. Okay, so again, you can write your OpenAPI specification in two format, either a JSON or YAML, whatever you are comfortable with. So I have written this in YAML. So here it is my metadata. Okay, my OpenAPI, it is of 3.0.0 version. Title, telecom, description, and the version. Then comes the path. I don't want to define my server, so I'm not putting it. Then comes my path. So first is customer. It is a post type. So I've written a summary. Okay, what it is regarding a short summary and then a lengthy description. Here we need to define our operation ID. It is like a tag which we define like what this particular resource or method is doing. This is my parameter. So the traits what we have defined over here, right, as a header. So here we define that as components. Okay, this is my parameter, and here I'm defining this as my trace header. So this I have defined as a common component, and this common component is getting reused over here, okay, as a header part. Okay, if you see here, it is defined in as header. The name required is, you can do it true false, description, then you define it as schema. Okay, there we don't, in RAML we don't need to define the schema, it is just types, but here we need to define it under schema, like what is the type, and then example. Okay, so if you see over here, you can see, okay, I have a header which is X correlation ID. Okay, how it looks like. This is my input, so you can see my request body, which is required true. The content is application JSON. Again, the keyword schema we need to define in that, like we use properties in RAML. Here it is schema, then type is object. Again, in object we have properties, and then what are my fields, and a example, a customer example, where I have provided like what value for name and email I want to give. And you can see this example over here. Okay, similarly for another resource which is a get type, you define the summary. If you want a description, you can do that. Then your tag for operation ID, the parameter for reusing the header. Here you are defining a query parameter, so you need to define it as a query. Okay, and then give the name of your query parameter. So if you go here in the summary, and if you open, you can see you have a query parameter which is a plan ID. Okay, and again the header you have. So this is the way, like how you define your open specification as compared to your RAML, where you might need to define few more tags or few more keywords, okay, to make it work. But the process is quite same. Okay, the functionality is quite same, just the way of defining and writing is little bit different. Yep. Jackie, you want to add something or any question? Jackie, if you are talking, not, I can't hear you. Yeah, Krishna.
So, in which particular situation we should go for RAML or OpenAPI specification? Any examples to choose those in?
Now as we are learning, so it is very much important that you know OpenAPI specification as well, in which it is doing the same job. Like you know RAML, you are very comfortable with RAML, so you are writing that. But you can write the same thing in OpenAPI specification, and moving forward, maybe only OpenAPI specification will be used. So it is good to have the knowledge of both RAML and OpenAPI specification.
Abhishek, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jackie, now.
Okay, I want to show one difference between OpenAPI spec and so if once you complete it, then I can show you so yeah.
Yeah. So I am quite done. Like I just want to have this brief description, like how both of them works and how the structure of this looks like. So I am stopping and you can share it again.
Yeah, give me a second. Okay.
Sure. And I will provide some link.
Okay, just let me know once you can see my screen.
It's coming up. Wait, a little blurry. It's coming up.
Now?
Still little blurry.
It's taking some time, basically.
Yeah, it's coming up little better. Yeah, little better. We can go ahead, I think.
So I think Abhishek already described what is OpenAPI spec. So I will just skip this. So it's similar to RAML, what Abhishek mentioned, but it is one of the universally accepted format, right? OpenAPI spec. So the RAML is mostly when we are writing the API for the MuleSoft, we use the RAML. But when we talk about which is the format that is universally accepted, that is OpenAPI specification, right? OAS. So these are some difference. So if you talk about full form, it's simple REST API modeling language and OpenAPI specification, and OAS also known as a Swagger, right? And the purpose is, I think, for both is same, used to design and model the API, used to describe and document the API. The purpose is same. Created by MuleSoft. One is created by OpenAPI Initiative Linux Foundation. The RAML only support in the YAML format, whereas OS you can write in YAML and JSON format. Focus area is the design first approach, and for OS it's documentation first, or we can call this as a design first also, and it is an industry standard. It is easy and clean syntax, easy and but more verbose. Supported tool Anypoint Studio Design Center. We have a Suga for OpenAPI support, Swagger Hub, Postman, Stoplight. There are many other tools. Using MuleSoft, fully supported and preferred. Supported but require import and conversion basically. The versioning is 0.8 and 1.0. We use 1.0 now, from many years, and it support 2.0, 3.0, 3.1. I think it's 3.2 also now. Reusability. Yeah, if you talk about the reusability, you will find more components in the RAML for the reusability purpose. But here in the OpenAPI specification, whenever you want to define schemas, examples, whatever, right, we define under the single component that is known as a components, right? So you define the components, but it is less modular than RAML basically, right? Document quality, I think it's from both we get very well documentation. Extensibility allow reusable templates and the threads. It support extension via some vendor tags basically, it's easier for MuleSoft user. It is easier for general API developers. It can be whenever you write the RAML, it can be easily converted into OS. There are tools available, and even OS can be easily converted from RAML. Even you can use the AI tools you can just put the RAML and it can give a OS, right? And even and vice versa. The community support, I think it's completely MuleSoft focused. The RAML community support, it's it's a MuleSoft community only, whereas OS is a very large and open community because it is accepted. It is universally accepted. API governance completely managed by MuleSoft, that is managed by OpenAPI initiative. Example syntax simplicity, it's cleaner, simple for modeling, richer for documentation and the examples, right? So that is why we have that is the difference between RAML versus OS. So I will suggest what happens generally, people nowadays goes with the OpenAPI specification when they are writing their APIs. Only the reason behind that, it is a universally accepted, right? Most of the organization, even they are not using MuleSoft, some other platform, right? So they are using the OpenAPI spec for writing their API. Okay, I will not. Okay. So from slide perspective, I will say thank you, but we have to see how we can create the project. So now I have written my RAML, right? So if you see, I completed writing my RAML, right? I already told what are the capability provided by Anypoint Studio, right? So now I can go to my Anypoint Studio. The first step here, you can see we have a Mule palette, right? We have a package explorer. We have like, we have a like everything, like console, everything. I will just say create a Mule project. I will just name this as a Salesforce system API, right? So like you can download the RAML from VCS, or you can import the RAML from local file, or you can import from publish file. If you click here on the publish, you can just say from Exchange, right? So you can do it from here, and you already added your account, right? So add account. I already added it. So but let me add it again. Jitendra. I think it's not refreshed yet. Right, you can search for your Salesforce, whatever API you published in the Exchange, right? You can search for that. So right now, if you edit this, it's 1.0.0. So the latest thing which I developed, it is not published, right? So let me do that. Let me publish the latest version. I will just say go, and I will just say 1 minute. Yeah, publish. So I will just go with a stable. If you see, the version is already incremented, published to Exchange. Close. Okay, so for now I will not do anything from here. I will just cancel it out. I will just create a project. Okay, Salesforce system API. Okay. System API. I will simply say finish. Okay, so I've created that. I can simply go to project. I will just explain here. You can see the pom.xml. So it has created a pom.xml. A pom.xml is a file which contains the name of your application, like some kind of a group ID, artifact ID, what kind of packaging. It contains all the dependency which required for the project, right? So it contains a plugin repository, like, so it also have like plugin repository and what are the plugins needed to build your project, basically, right? So it's completely whatever project you are creating, right, in the Anypoint Studio. It is completely, it can be built completely by your Maven, basically. And whatever, if you want to work with some kind of dependency, you can just add the dependency into your pom.xml. Right here, it will create a default file. This is nothing known as a MuleSoft configuration file. Here we can start writing your flows and everything. Here you can see all the components. So you have logger, listener, request, transformation, transform message. If you go with core component, you have a lot of core component, error handling component, flow control, scope component, right? If you type Salesforce, you will see all the this is the Salesforce connector, right? So these are the operations. So there are two things associated with connector: connection and the operation. So connection is basically how you can connect to that particular system, right? And what operations you need to perform. So for example, about job, it's nothing, it's kind of operation, right? You have something called query also. So if you want to query a Salesforce, right, you can use the operation called query. Right, same thing like here I just shown the Salesforce. We have a database connector also. So we have a database connector. You can perform bulk delete, bulk insert, bulk update, insert on table row. So there are many connectors. As I mentioned, there are 200 to 400 connectors available, right, to connect different system like SAP, with NetSuite, Salesforce, any legacy system like SQL. There are many connectors available. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Just so before that, I want, like generally what happens. So whenever you write the RAML, right, so you can automatically generate a initial flow. We call that as a scaffolding. So you can develop. So for example, now how many endpoints I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right. So there are 5 endpoints. So it will generate a 7 flows. Let me show you how we can generate the flows automatically. I can simply right click here, and I can just say Anypoint platform, download the RAML from the MuleSoft VCS. So I just click here, and this is my project, Salesforce System API. It automatically showing here, and this is your username. I will say okay. I will just say yes. See, it automatically generates the flow. You have a main flow. I'm going to explain everything. You have a main flow. These are some kind of error handling, right? Error handling blocks has been already added. Then you can see console flow, right? This is my console flow. Then we have a flow for each and every resource. So get/account/account ID. So this is to retrieve a single account. Now you can say get single contact, basically like contact for the account. We have another get account/account ID, retrieve a single accounts. Then we have something called a post account, right? So to create a accounts basically, then like to create a contact for that account ID. So if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flows are generated. So 5 flows for each and every endpoint, which we have defined into the RAML. There's a one main flow, right? And with the error handling blocks, we will going to talk more about error handling. Don't worry about that. And there's a console flow. Okay. So here, if I open the API kit router, right? So here, if you want to disable some kind of RAML validation, you can do it from here. Or if you want to just disable RAML validation, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep my RAML validation disabled. Here you can see like it is pointed to the Salesforce System API RAML basically. So this is the RAML, it is pointed, right? You can see it automatically generated. Then like these are just you can ignore all these things just in case if you want to disable the validation, right? So whenever the input request is coming, if you want to disable validation, you just simply click here disable. If you want to disable some kind of like if you want this header stick validation and query parameter stick validation, you just check on that. I will check on that, right? I want to make sure all the required headers and everything is coming. Just say okay. Okay, now let me do one thing, like you can see it right now what it does, right? It generates some kind of like input and output which we have given, right? It automatically generates that. These are the input and output. Okay, so let me right click this and run this project. I will save this. We will remove everything, whatever we're seeing here, right? We will remove everything. We will talk about like properties and everything. So this is just the initial project. It is started. Before that, I forget to show you one thing. Now, if you see, we have a HTTP listener here, right? So this is nothing, it's a HTTP connector. So if you go in the global elements, if you open this, so here I'm saying the protocol, it can be HTTP or HTTPS. For now, I'm using HTTP and the port number is 8081. Okay. The other thing, if you go to the router, if you go to the HTTP, not HTTP listener, just a minute. Yeah, here it is /API. The initial part is the /API, and then the resource part which you have defined into your RAML. So let me show you first. Let me open my Postman. I will go to the application.
Jacket got blurred again.
Yeah, don't worry, because I just minimize it. That's why. Okay. Don't worry. Yeah. I don't know why my application is not opening. Now it's blur again.
Yes, nothing is visible.
It will be. Don't worry.
Yep.
I don't know what happened. Okay. I will just open the Postman and I will just say http/localhost. Now it's visible, right?
No.
API/accounts. Okay, so I'm just saying get the account. I'm just sending the request. It's saying bad request basically.
Jackie, Just give 2 minutes. Nothing is visible.
Yeah, it is
Let me
blurred.
reshare.
Not able to see.
Yeah, sure. Reshare again.
Save it.
Still
Now
blur. No,
Yeah,
still blur.
save it.
let's wait for a minute.
Yeah, let's wait for a minute.
Now,
No.
yeah, I think I have a connection also.
Mm,
I'm resharing
sure.
now.
Still blur, but let's wait 1 minute and see if it is coming. Meanwhile, Surender have a question. Yeah, Surender, you wanna ask?
Yeah, Srinu, I will show you as soon as the screen will come up. Okay.
It's visible now, Jack.
Okay, fine. So I don't know why it's taking that time. Okay. So like here you can just simply right click, go to Anypoint platform and just say download RAML from the MuleSoft VCS. And here you can, it will list down all the project which you have published to the Anypoint exchange. It will list down everything and you have to select the right project and just say okay. And make sure you are selecting the right username which belongs to your organization, and make sure you are selecting the right business group. For me, it's help only. So that's how you can do. You just simply say okay and it will going to create a flow for you. Okay. So now let me go to Postman. So whenever I'm sending the request like http localhost 8081/API/account, it gave me a bad request, right? Which is valid, right? Because I'm not passing the required headers. So let me pass a required header, client ID, client secret. I will pass any value because I'm not doing any kind of validation. Okay, still bad request. Let me see X. Let me see what are the mandatory parameters. So let me go back. I think header is also mandatory. We make it mandatory, right? Yeah. Copy this. Still it's bad request. Let me see. You can see the errors here in the console. What is the problem? A client ID and the okay, it's a yeah. Wait. I have done this. Let me remove this. Okay. This should not be like this. I think whether it took, let me check what version it took. Okay. So once we see, I forget to tell you one thing basically. Once you add this, once you create a flow, it add one dependency basically. Okay. So it adds some kind of dependency. I want to check what dependency it has been added. Okay. It's add the source basically. Yeah. It added the source here. You can see that. Like you can see the what are the sources and what are the code, everything has been added here. But there's other way. If I don't want to add this here, right, I'll show you. Like generally we can add the dependency and we can use that. Okay, in tomorrow's session I will show that and upcoming, but for now we just work with this. Okay, so file save all console, it is getting deployed again. So once you do the changes, it should get deployed. Just send it. Yeah, we got the response here, right? So we got the successful response. In case if I'm sending something wrong, right, some wrong path or something like that, right, it should not give the response. Okay, something is, yeah, account slash contact slash, if I put a post, Yeah, method not allowed. It will definitely give those kind of errors basically. Yeah, because we have a account/account ID. If I put something called get and I put something called 11/22, it should give not found. Yeah, it giving me a not found, resource not found, which is the valid errors basically, right? So let me go back to my Anypoint Studio. I want to show the console flow also, how you can access this console flow. So we have something called console flow here. And here you can just say /console. Let me see if I can access the console flow. I can just say http localhost 8081/console. So we get the console flow, and this console flow will tell what kind of APIs and what kind of you have it basically, right? What kind of resources, what kind of like APIs you having basically, right? So that console flow will tell something like this. Okay. So let me do one more thing. Let me delete this whole folder. I don't need it this. I just delete this. Let me okay. So let me let me save it. There's another way also. I can simply say right click Anypoint platform and download RAML from MuleSoft VCS. Let's wait. So you know what is the console flow? Everybody got it, right? The console flow basically like what are the API available, right? That you can get the details of this. It's kind of description for your APIs. Yeah. Or see, now what happened, like I just, when I generated the APIs, right? So what I have done, I just say Anypoint platform download RAML from the MuleSoft PCS. In that case, what happened? It download all the codes and everything here, right? And you can see that under source, main, and resources. But I don't want to do that. I want to use the dependency instead of that. So simply whenever I do the changes in the RAML and I publish to the exchange, I can just update my dependency and it should start working, right? I can simply say right click and I can say manage dependency, manage API, right? Under that, you can just click on plus. I will just say from exchange, right? You can search for a system API. This will also generate the automatic code for you. Okay, let me write. This is my system API, Salesforce system API. Just I will add it and just say finish. I will just say apply and close. Do you want to? Yeah, I want to generate the scaffold for that. That is nothing, that the automatic code basically. Yes. So it has been successfully generated your scaffolding and everything. You can see it here, right? And this time it will not going to add any code here into the source main resources. No code has been generated here. You can see that. Instead of that, it will add the dependency into your pom.xml. So here you can see it added a dependency into your pom.xml saying Salesforce system API. This is the organization ID. This is 1.0.1. Let's consider in future I had done some changes. If I go to my Anypoint platform and here I'm just saying I don't require this field as a true, right? And I will publish this. And this will be 1.0.2. I'll just publish it. I will just close it. Okay. So now what I have to do, I don't have to do like much more now. So you can simply update the version to 1.0.2 in your pom.xml and you go to the API kit router. So if you go to your API kit router, right? If you here your configuration, basically a system API configuration. So if you open this configuration XML and if you go to your API kit router config, right? This is your API kit router config. Okay. So under you can search for control F 1.01, control F. Okay. Something is that. Okay. Let me do one thing. let me delete this file itself because okay, and let me get the API. Sometimes it happens when we work with when we are trying to export, right? Sometimes it may happen. So again, I will take this. I will just say apply and close. Let me again go back to Anypoint platform, manage APIs. I can just remove this, just say add from Exchange and Salesforce. Yeah, I will take the Salesforce system API. Add it. So this is the recommended approach. Okay, always you take add dependency instead of downloading the full code into your project. Okay, I will just say apply and close. Yes, generate the scaffold. Okay. Yes. Okay. So let it be generate the scaffold, and I will just make this as a required true. And I'll just publish it 1.0.3. I just want to show, like, these are the changes we keep on doing in the production environment also. So once we have done, once it will be get published, right? So you have to go to the pom.xml and you just have to say 1.0.3. Let's see if it's published. Okay, it's published. That is the one place you need to change in the pom.xml, and you go to system API. And if you go to the API kit router in the configuration XML, right here also you have to change, like if you see this API kit config, right, system API, and you have to just change, update the version here also 1.0.3. These are the two things you need to do. So what is the API kit router? So generally the API kit router basically is used to validate your request against the RAML, right? It is also route the request to the proper endpoint. So you have a multiple endpoint. The request will come to this listener, and API kit router will route the request to the right endpoints into your implementation, right? If the request is coming for get account, it will route to the get account. If request is coming for the get account ID, it will route to this, right? That's how it happens basically. So that is the whole purpose of your API kit router. So we will have a single listener. All the requests will come to this listener. It will go to API kit router. API kit router will validate your request and everything, and it will route to the right endpoint into your flow, right? That is what API kit router does. Any question?
Jackie, one question, like, does the pom.xml, we have to update it manually, right? Whenever we change
Yeah.
in the code. Okay. It does not get automatically updated.
You can do that actually. Okay, what you have to do, you can do that. So like you can simply go to the manage dependency, manage APIs basically. Okay, and you can just you have options basically. You can remove and add the new, so it will get overwrite into your pom.xml. So whenever you get update any creating any new endpoints and everything basically, right? So you can just update the version basically, right? So once you update the you can remove this, right, and you can just add the new. It will update pom.xml, and if any new endpoint is added, right, it will automatically get added into your Salesforce system API.xml in the Mule configuration file. You can do that, right? In case, like, I will generally suggest, if you are adding some new endpoints into existing RAML, then I will go with this approach. In case if you are doing some minor changes, right, just require true or require false or anything, right, I will simply go and just update my pom.xml and API kit router settings basically, right? This 1.03, yeah, correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what I think I want to cover for today's demo. So what we have done in today's demo, just let me summarize. We have talked about like how we can write, how we can enable a reusability into a RAML. We have seen threads, library, we have seen data types, we have seen security schemes, right? And then like we have also have talked about the Open API specification. Abhishek has just talked on Open API specification, right? Can we please go on mute?
21.
Hello. Okay. So Abhishek talk about the API open API specification. Then I just also talk like how we can start implementing your API from the existing RAML or a RAML which you have already designed basically, right? So that's what we have seen. So we have created just some kind of initial flows, but like this flow will be not used basically. Okay. So we will going to change everything. Like, we will keep the skeleton as it is, but we're going to change anything, like everything. We will in next demo we will going to connect to the Salesforce. We will going to fetch the data from the Salesforce, how we can create the connections, how we can create the operations, right? All those things we're going to discuss in the upcoming session, in next session basically. Any question from today's session?
I have one question. So the in the exchange, while we were publishing the API, so we had two versions. We had stable and development version.
Yeah.
So what impact will it have when we are importing it to Studio? Like
No,
if
no,
we,
for Studio, I don't think it will just showcase the stable version. So generally, I will suggest if you want to export in Studio, right? You can export only stable versions only, Amrita. Okay. For
we
development,
can we do it for development also? And if we are updating anything, first we do the development, publish in the dev mode, and then we do the
no, no, no,
change.
no. That is not a part of life cycle. We don't suggest to go do like that. Okay. So that development is not for developing the MuleSoft integration. That is development. The development status is for the RAML only. So you just whenever you have a stable version of RAML, then only you start with the implementation part, Amrita. That is the life cycle.
Okay.
Yes, like it's simple. Like if any changes is happening in the RAML basically, right? So definitely the design team and the development team can be different, right? So whenever the changes is happening in the RAML, you have to you have to pull those changes into your implementation also. It's not necessary. Like if you want to do that changes, right? If you want to implement it, those changes into your APIs, then you have to pull that. You have to change the version number. You have to update your version number basically. That is recommended. No, no. Is there any notification? No, no. It will not going to change any notification if version is changed basically in the exchange. Okay, it will not. Okay. Okay. So Abhishek, I think we are good for today, right? So guys, I request everyone to provide the feedback for the session. Like yesterday we just got one or two feedback. So I will request everyone to just provide the feedback. I hope you like the session. See, we have just set up the foundation now, and from next session we will start implementing the API, and like we will see data waves. We will see we will start using lot of MuleSoft component into the APIs and the integration. So we'll go step by step, right? So I hope any feedback or I hope you get clear with the RAML, right? So you get the good idea on RAML, like how you can write the RAMLs and everything, right? Yeah, Rahul.
Jitendra, if we want to do practice of these modules, whatever learn in these
Yeah.
2 days, so how can we start it?
So first thing, as I mentioned, like you have to create a free accounts, right, on the Anypoint platform, right? So you can create a free Anypoint platform account. And as I mentioned, I'm already uploading all the recordings to the GitHub basically, right? Sorry, to the YouTube, and I am uploading all this whatever code we are generating in this session, right, to the GitHub basically, right? So I already shared all the links. I think in the morning I have sent the email also, right, with the links and everything. So you can use that, Rahul. And the first thing, you can just go to the anypoint.mulesoft.com and create a sign up. Once you sign up, you will get a 30 days trial account and you can start practicing, Rahul.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Okay. So guys, thank you. So I hope you like the session. I'm trying to meet your expectation also. So yeah. And thanks Abhishek, and thanks everyone to be part of the session on the Sunday. So I just wasted your 2 days of 2 hours of your Sunday. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. Yeah.